Good afternoon. I'd like to call Oak Harbor's Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order, please. And it is Thursday, March 27th. I'd like to start with roll call, please. Gideon Kaufman?
Yeah, present.
Okay. Greg Lanza? Nick Hamden?
Present.
All right. Kelly Bugg, present. And Councilmember Barbara Arms. Thank you. I would like to move on with a motion to approve our minutes for our last meeting, which was on January 23rd, 2025.
I will call for that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. All right. I'll say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we still have not received any public comment, is that true? No public comments today? Great, okay. All right. Well, today, our discussion is going to be about certified local government grants. And this is going to be presented by Senior Planner Ray Lindenberg and our grants administrator, Wendy Horn.
Thank you, members of our commission. I'm going to do just kind of a quick overview here and then turn over to Wendy because she knows a lot more than I do about all the technical aspects. So essentially what we've done, we had this discussion in the past about applying for grants to get certain things done. One of the things that we need to get done is a historic inventory that is required by our code, and definitely something that we should be doing anyway. So I have gotten in touch. I sent out some emails to a few consulting firms that specialize in that sort of work, and I've been in touch with two of them, both very impressive, really good detailed conversation about what it is we can do, strategies, things like that. So I'm going to turn it over to Wendy, have her go through kind of the nuts and bolts of the grant process, and then I'll come back and talk to you a little bit about strategy on what we want to focus on and things like that. So.
Thank you. I'm Wendy Horn, the grants administrator for the city, and I'm happy to share this opportunity with you guys. We missed the window like by 2 weeks last year, so we've been looking for it. There we go. Okay. So you all are probably familiar with the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation, but they do offer this program called the Certified Local Government Program. Cities can apply for this designation, and Oak Harbor has had this designation since 2019. In order to qualify, though, cities do have to do some different things. They have to maintain a qualified historic preservation commission. They have to adopt a local ordinance that gives the commission the means to establish a local register of historic places. They need to survey their local historic properties, review National Register nominations, educate the public, and provide for public participation in historic preservation activities. And of course, one of the main benefits of being a certified local government is that then we're eligible for some historic preservation grants and technical assistance programs as well. So the grant program itself is an annual program. The money is actually federal money, if that matters, but it comes to the state, and then the state offers it to local communities. It is open to a wide variety of different types of preservation programs. It includes architectural and historic place surveys, preservation planning activities, including community or neighborhood preservation plans, revitalization plans, historic reports, among other things. And then you can also do educational activities and purchase materials like walking tours, workshops, seminars, publications, and other hands-on activities. So each year, the CLG has priority areas that they like to focus on. And for FY25, Their priorities are for funding requests that are over $15,000, surveys of underrepresented resources, identification, evaluation, or the protection of historic and archaeological resources. And then in addition to that, this year, they also are focusing on giving funding to communities who have never applied for this funding before, which is us. So, as Ray mentioned, the proposal that we will be requesting is for about $20,000. We don't exactly have the price yet, to hire a consultant who would then do a survey of the city, and I'm going to let Ray talk a little bit more about that with his conversations. But the nuts and bolts are that the grant opened March 4th, it closes May 30th. There's no match requirement, which is always a nice thing for the city, so we don't have to find any additional money. And currently, the City Council has to approve all of our submissions for grant applications. So unless those guidelines change between now and May 30th, we will be presenting this grant to them probably in early May for their approval to submit. And we always welcome anyone to provide public comment and support, so you all are welcome to attend that meeting. And that literally is all I have, so we can bring it over back to Ray and do some discussion.
Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that. So when I talked to the two consultants, I talked to Doncaster and to NWVHP. I can't remember what the abbreviation is, so I apologize for that. But both of them were kind of the opinion, with the budget that we're talking about of roughly $20,000, we're not going to be able to go through and do an entire survey of the whole city. And so strategically, the idea is to kind of focus on areas that might be in danger of being demolished, redeveloped, impinged upon in some way, et cetera. And so I think that, you know, based on that and the knowledge of the city that I have, and with some discussion with you all, the suggestion was from both of those professionals was to kind of focus on the downtown area, focus on the Chimes Corner, Midway corridor, and maybe focus on a couple of selected residential neighborhoods. And what they would do is go through and do what they call a reconnaissance level survey, where they go and, you know, take a look at specific buildings, take a picture or two, kind of go a little bit into the history and find out, you know, when it was built, stuff like that, to build kind of a database of information. And the thing is about it is that, you know, when I first talked to Doncaster was, you know, is this something we're going to be able to do the whole city? And the answer is no. And the concept is to do small portions at a time and apply for a grant next year and the following year and keep building up that database so it's a living document. Because one of the things that we talked about originally with Michelle from DAP was, so these things are 50 years old this year, but they'll be 51 years old next year, and we'll have a whole new crop of buildings or locations or whatever. So what we're really not trying to do is chase the tail, you know, in that situation, but just kind of find some locations, find some neighborhoods, find some commercial nodes, things like that, so that we are able to focus our efforts in the important areas that might need the most kind of recognition. What really kind of struck me, and I talked to folks today at Spencer today, was to essentially find out what it is we have. Because when we can do that, that way we can determine what education is needed for people who live in the neighborhood or people who own the buildings and things like that. So that's really my thought, and my thought process is to find out what it is we have. I think we have an idea, but maybe we don't have some of the details, and this gets us there. We will get from the actual production of this, we will get paperwork, we will get the information that people can utilize themselves, that property owners can use themselves to apply for registry, whether that's our local registry or potentially even a national registry. So that is what is provided to us, you know, as essentially the outcome of paying them to do this, on top of that actual list, which is our historic inventory. And that historic inventory is a living document that we as staff have access to, property owners have access to. It's not something that's hidden away somewhere. So that's a good thing too. That was one of my kind of primary concerns. So with that, I would recommend and kind of ask you to offer any discussion or ideas that you might have, is to focus on primarily the downtown area, Central Business District, Pioneer Way, Chimes Corner, which is at the corner of Midway and Whidbey, and the buildings and kind of neighborhood to the north of that, and probably the school building as well. And then probably one of our kind of mid-century stretches of mid-century homes on Northeast 6th, and perhaps a small area down here around Smith Park for that kind of more traditional historic area. But one of the things that we did talk about, and I told them that I keep beating this dead horse about the mid-century buildings, but that's when Oak Harbor was really growing. And one of the folks was talking about how, you know, it's important to build the context of why it is we have all these buildings that were built in the 1950s, right? Instead of why don't we have buildings that were built in the 1870s? Well, there weren't people here then. And so to build that historic context is just as important as having a list of buildings, right? So that's one of the things that I kind of wanted to focus on because we do have our traditional, more early 1900s historic area in the downtown, but we also have kind of the later development that people might not appreciate right now, but maybe should, or maybe could. And the thing is, too, is that a lot of those houses are in private property owners' hands right now, and they can be really kind of change agents and make sure that some of these things to get preserved. So as we go through the process of doing our comprehensive plan and think about upzoning and more density and more construction, some of these places are going to start to feel a little bit of development pressure. So it's a perfect time to start working on this, and I think that's important too. So with, like I said, what I'd like to do is kind of discuss that strategy with you. If you have any strong desire either way to focus on a different area or along those lines, but that would be my suggestion, is kind of 4 specific small areas that they can really, you know, sink their teeth into. And we'll determine, I believe, if I remember correctly, we can select the contractor or the consultant. And so that's something that we'll be able to do as staff with some more of their information that they give us. So that would be the concept, is to select a consultant, bring it back to you, and go through the process with the city council, and then bring it back to you, and then go over the really more detailed information. Because right now we're just talking about kind of clouds rather than, you know, lines on a map. So, like I said, I'll leave it up to you for any discussion or questions you might have for myself or for Wendy.
All right, I got a bunch.
Okay.
The consultants you talked to both agreed 20K would not be a whole city effort. Did they price drop a whole city effort, though? Like, what would be a...
Well, no, it's hard to do, and I understand that. What I did tell them is if we had roughly $20,000, what would you be able to do? And they suggested the idea, both of them, independently, without me leading them in that direction, suggested the more focused approach. Because they could sit there, and what I did originally back in 2019 is I got onto the county records and selected all buildings that were older than 50 years in age, and it gave me a location. I put a dot. That's great for a map. It doesn't really help that much. And I'm sure they could do something like that was very thin on information, but that's not really what they do, and that's not really what we need.
Okay.
So,
Follow up, probably for Wendy. The grant said it's more likely to give to places that haven't had one yet. So should we be requesting more than 20,000 as it's our first attempt? Shoot for the moon so we can maybe plan for more over years?
Well, unfortunately, it's not a big pot of money that the DHAP gets to dole out to the entire state. And when we spoke with Michelle, she kind of indicated a $20,000-$25,000 range would be a good place to start.
Appropriate, okay.
Yeah.
Did you say that once you figured out a contractor, you'd have to come back to us again before presenting to the city council? to ask if we can submit a contract?
We won't be able to do that because of the
Right.
way the meetings line up. So I believe that if you are okay with trusting us to select one of these two, and honestly, I will tell you right now, both very impressive. Both very sharp, know what they're doing, have experience. One is located out of state, the other is located near Seattle. Whether or not that really makes a difference, I don't know, but both of them, I would trust to do the work. I'll put it that way.
And you did say a lot of areas as a suggestion. Did you have a picture of what you were talking about? Because I kind of got lost. Or is it feasible to bring up a Google Maps or some other less sponsored map right now so you can point them out?
Is there a way to hook up a computer real quick with Google Earth?
Google
Yeah,
Earth's pretty fancy.
We can do that.
you know.
It's got Street View and everything,
Yeah.
so, yeah. No, I agree.
I
We
got
can do
lost
that.
pretty quickly, and then I was like, all right, I'll just ask
Apologies,
later.
yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah.
That was my main points right
Okay,
first.
yeah.
That all sounds great. I just do want to say that I am all for the consulting firm that is in Washington State.
I would lean in that direction too, based on our conversation, so that was
Just wanted
kind
to
of
put
my
that
thought.
point in.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you
And
want to- that sounds
honestly, it wasn't so much of the location, it was just the discussion that we had. It was kind of a free-flowing conversation. What is it you do? How can you help us? And what can we do for you? If it was one of those situations where you're kind of ranking them, I give them a 9 and the other one an 8.5. You'd be great with either one. So, yeah.
I just worry about how much personal, connection we'd be able to have with them, like if they were over here working, because I like to kind of know what they're doing and how much of contact we have with them online. If they're out of state, would they
Yeah.
be here? Would they come and stay here? Would they stay in a motel? I mean, I just kind of know what kind
Right.
of how they would be able to do it from living out of state. Is
Yeah,
my
and
question.
the out-of-state consultant did a lot of work here, and was on the board that worked on CLG grants in the past. So he has experience, and he's done it before. It's Doncaster. So well-known, regarded, and everything. So, yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay.
If you could, can you get into Street View from that? Or do you want me to drive? Do you have a wireless mouse? Okay. If you can go over to the corner of Whidbey and Midway, just plop down the Street View thing and looking to the north in that intersection. And you're no longer on the screen up here. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
None of the screens, technically.
Perfect, yeah. So that's. This is Chimes Corner.
So you're starting with
Okay.
the old store, the antique store.
Yeah, oldish stuff is over here. The Chimes building that used to actually have the sign on before they painted over it, built in 1948. It's a cool kind of Art Deco looking building. And I'll tell you right now, through our comp plan process, we've had people doing kind of visualizations of what 3- and 4-story buildings will look like in these areas. And these things disappear. And that's what worries me. I don't want them to disappear. And it's just conceptual at this point. But at the same time, it would be nice to say, hey, that building's worth something. And from the information that we get from Ray Helsley, who is our longtime zoning enforcement guy and was a police officer way back when, this used to be the only stoplight in town way back when. And they had a light on top of one of those stoplights that would flash whenever there was a police call because they didn't have radios. So, there's little tidbits of history there, and those kind of things, that's the context that the consultants were talking about, stuff like that. And so that's one of them. That's the Chimes Corner area. And if you kind of go to the north, there's not, and the beauty of this, honestly, from a budget standpoint, is there's not a lot there. So they can go look at the 1 or 2 buildings that are there and come to a conclusion of, okay, well, there's not a lot here, but here are some cool places that would be worthy of preservation. So that's a good thing. And then if you can go up to Northeast 6th Avenue. And this is one of the neighborhoods that was built kind of in the late 50s. It's very much kind of tract houses, but modern, cool architecture at the same time. Yep. Yeah, keep going up, and it's one of the ones that has the blue line on it. It should be right below where your hand is. I believe so.
Somewhere near.
Okay, yeah. And if you kind of just rotate around, you can see some of these houses that have the very modern lines to them. And they're, they're modest. They're nothing fancy, but again, it's just one of those kind of context and, this is the history of Oak Harbor. This is how it was developed way back when, back in the 50s and 60s, that's what it looked like. And so if you get over, if you can scroll around this way, the other way, sorry. You get some of these houses that have that kind of low roof line, the low pitches and everything, very, very kind of descriptive of that, late 50s, early 60s kind of modernism. So the boat, probably a little bit newer. So just kind of, again, context of what we have in our neighborhoods here. And of course, everybody knows what downtown looks like. So that would be the kind of, the primary one. But, also trying to figure out, and this is the beauty of it, we don't have to lock ourselves into this street or this building or whatever right now. But I would also suggest that if we have room in the budget, that we should probably pick up kind of one of those older original neighborhoods in amongst the Oaks or over by the Smith Park or something along those lines. Because again, some of those buildings will make the cut, but some won't. And that's okay, that's fine. And that also kind of speaks to the context of Oak Harbor. It was a very small town before the war, very small.
Which war?
World War II, sorry, yeah. I was surprised. I looked at Wikipedia, and they have the population chart. It was less than 1,000 people in 1940.
That's 8th Avenue, correct?
What's that?
That's 8th Avenue?
8th Avenue, yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've always thought so.
Oh, yeah. When you first described things, I thought you were talking about like a whole giant block from street to street, and I was trying to figure out the blocking, but you're specifically like streets.
That's
These
the
streets
thing.
you're
Yeah,
thinking of,
it
okay.
might for Northeast 6th, it might be the entire street, but it's probably a matter of 20 houses or something like that. And so if we can get into a deep dive, and depending on what the grant amount might be, we can adjust things as we go through it too. This is not set in stone by any means.
Yeah.
So this is just more of a kind of strategy talk. Does this sound good to you as far as kind of focusing on these things? And then we can hone in. We won't be writing a contract for anything just yet. So, yeah.
And on that, again, not set in stone and not have to be figured out now, but if the goal is every year to piece by piece get more areas, probably good then later in the year, summer, to actually figure out what would the next areas be.
Oh,
Again,
absolutely.
Without saying that, in 2026, this is what we look at, in 2027, this is, but a rough idea.
Yeah.
I'd rather have it planned out and figured out, so it's not just, we'll figure it out when we get there,
Right, and that
It's like,
was
I want to, it'd be
yes.
nice if it's planned with an intention.
one of
Cut
one
off
of them.
areas or whatever.
Right. One of the people I was speaking to today was saying that it's much easier to do this sort of work when you are planning for it rather than when there's a bulldozer sitting next to it or something.
Yeah.
So
In my head, it'd be nice if this is not reality. I'm like, just pick, First Street and work down or something, and but
Yeah.
that doesn't match reality because what areas need the focus first, and then
Right.
work towards the ones that don't.
yeah.
But yeah, that was most of my comments. I probably got them all.
Any other member comments?
Yeah, I was just wondering where you are in the whole process. So, are you going to collect cost estimates and then go to council, or is it council then approach the contractors, or?
I would say that's happening all in tandem, because the grant application, we're just starting to get that going, and the first piece was to start talking to the consultants, what they could do for $25,000. And then usually with the council, we try to bring them enough information that they know what we're planning to do, but we usually don't have all of the pieces in place when we go before them because, again, we'll have a couple extra weeks before it's due, so we can fine tune it and make it the best application that we can. And I do want to add too that this, if we do receive the grant, It would be a September 1, 2025 to October 30th. No, sorry, October 1st, 2025 to September 30th, 2026 project. So it's the federal year.
So a lot of time to get the other eggs in the basket.
Yes.
You said early May was the goal to present this. That is, their Monday meetings here, right?
It's the first
Tuesday,
Tuesday
Tuesdays.
of May, which
First
I believe is
Tuesday
the
of May.
3rd.
Of May, it'd be 6th.
Oh, is 6th? Oh, I don't have a calendar. Apologize. It's the first Tuesday of May, and their meetings start at 5:30.
Tuesday.
Is the Historic Preservation Commission involved in the application process? Is it something that we need to write out or something you write out? Do we need
No,
to
I
prepare a
do the
speech?
presentation. Actually, Ray and I will probably do the presentation together, so.
It would just be showing up and say, does anyone have public comments? Because we're kind of chill here, right? Or sending them in advance.
Yeah, and I would say if you wanted to, give comment or show up or whatever, that would certainly, help and kind of nudge them in the right direction. But, I don't think there'll be any opposition to this, but, get everybody involved, get the community out, and one of the things, the beauty of presenting to the city council is it's an extra step, but it also involves more people, and people watch those meetings too and, participate, so,
More than ours.
yeah.
Do you expect opposition from the city council? Okay.
Any other member comments?
I just want to say thank you for your time and putting together the presentation and all the work you put into this segment of it, and look forward to it. This is very exciting.
Yes, thank you. The next scheduled meeting date will be May 22nd, 2025.
You said there was I want to know if other people know to make sure, but the Smith Park has some ceremony that is relevant to us in April
Yes,
12th?
April 12th, the Smith Park Commencement Ceremony by the Oak Gary Society.
Yeah.
It would behoove all of us to be there. I plan on attending. It's at 1 o'clock. Thank you. On April 12th, in Smith Park. I think it'll be great.
If we might
yeah.
have a quorum of commissioners there, I will put out a notice to just, to the public, let them know we might have a quorum of commissioners, but that no action would be taken. So if a majority of you do plan on attending, I'll be sure to put that notice out.
I think I can. I just found out very recently. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
absolutely will be there.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Next meeting would be May 22nd, 2025. Could I please get a motion to call for an adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
second that.
I get an aye? Aye. Thank you all.